Welcome to Question It, the podcast where we rethink health, wellness, and personal growth. I'm Kevin, your host, chief inquisitor, and sometimes guinea pig, exploring fresh paths to a better life. Let's dive into today's episode and get started. Why is the wellness industry such a mess? Why are more people than ever struggling with their health, wellness, and happiness? Why are behaviors seemingly out of control, whether totally destructive or extremely constructive, like professional athletes and their behaviors outside of the sport, or Olympic athletes and their behaviors outside of the sport? Once again, we're going to dig into this topic of health and wellness, a passion of mine, hopefully of yours, and that's why you're here. And we're going to be using Google's Notebook LM again today because I just love how it summarizes other content. And today's episode is a much quicker summary of my previous episode, episode 18, where I went into a deep dive on my own for more than 50 minutes. I hope you'll listen to that episode, but I understand it's kind of long. So I wanted to create this episode using AI to give you a quicker summary. So here's what AI had to say about my episode 18 and the wellness industry and your overall health and wellness and why it's been such a struggle for so long.
All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And today, we're going to be tackling wellness, but like with a bit of a twist, right? We're going beyond just, the typical diet and exercise stuff that everyone always talks about.
Right.
And really try to dig into why do so many programs fail?
Yeah.
What actually moves the needle?
Yeah.
And to help us kind of unpack all this, we're going to be looking at insights from Kevin Strauss.
Okay.
He's a 20-plus year Ironman triathlete. And he's been, really into wellness for decades.
Wow. Ironman. That's pretty intense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this isn't just, some random blog post we found, online.
Right. He's got some serious skin in the game.
Exactly. And he shared a bunch of really eye-opening insights in his podcast episode, Why is Wellness Failing Us and What's Missing?
Okay.
So get ready to take some notes.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting about Strauss is he doesn't just throw out generic advice. Like I said, he's been doing this for decades, pushing his body to those extreme limits as an athlete, but also, recognizing that wellness is so much deeper than that.
Totally. And he actually makes this really great point about how, the wellness industry today is so obsessed with the physical.
Right.
It's all about fitness trackers, kale smoothies, getting those six-pack abs, but they're missing the bigger picture. It's
foundation.
It's like they're trying to fix a flat tire, but they're only inflating the other three.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah. It might look okay for a little bit, but it's not going to get you very far.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And that's where his Formula 4 wellness model comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So Strauss believes that there are 4 interconnected tires of well-being.
Okay.
You got physical health, emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health. And if you neglect any one of them, you're kind of setting yourself up for a bumpy ride.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We all know that physical health is important, but I think, we don't often think about how often we prioritize our emotional well-being.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what, Strauss is arguing. He's saying that emotional health is the most overlooked and undervalued aspect of wellness.
Okay.
Even though it impacts literally every other area of our lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's you can show up to work physically, but if you're totally checked out emotionally, are you really thriving? Are you bringing your best self to the table?
I know. I'm definitely not when I'm emotionally drained.
Exactly.
I'm just ugh.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I mean, research really backs this up, right? Think about the Harvard study of adult development, which is one of the longest running studies ever on happiness.
Okay.
They followed hundreds of men for over 80 years.
That's wild.
It is wild. And what was the single biggest predictor of happiness and fulfillment they found?
Oh, I'm curious.
Strong relationship.
Okay, wow. That's pretty powerful.
Yep.
And Strauss even goes a step further than that. He's saying we're driven more by pain than by pleasure.
Interesting.
And a lot of that pain stems from emotional wounds, you know?
It's true, yeah. Think about it like the sting of rejection, you know? That ache of loneliness, that feeling of being undervalued, like those are real experiences, you know? Often more powerful than any kind of physical discomfort.
Yeah.
And they shape our choices in really profound ways.
Oh, absolutely. It's so true. Like we all have those moments where we just like reach for that extra glass of wine, or we're scrolling mindlessly through Instagram, or we overwork ourselves to avoid dealing with like difficult emotions.
Right.
Those are all just ways of numbing or like escaping that emotional pain.
It is. It's like you said, numbing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what the traditional wellness programs, they completely miss this. They focus on the symptoms, right? The weight gain, the fatigue, the lack of motivation, but they don't go to the root cause, which is, you know, unaddressed emotional needs.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, okay, we know that emotional health is critical, but how do we actually cultivate it? What are some practical steps, you know, that people can start taking today?
Yeah, I mean, Strauss has some really simple but powerful strategies. And I think one of the most important is learning to truly listen, to understand. It's not just about like hearing the words, you know, but it's really trying to grasp the other person's feelings, you know, like their perspective.
Oh, yeah.
It's about setting aside your own judgments and biases and really like stepping into their shoes.
Love that, stepping into their shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's powerful.
And he also talks about acknowledging and validating those feelings, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like letting the other person know that you've heard them, even if you don't necessarily agree with their perspective, you know?
Right.
I think this is about, you know, creating a space for like authentic connection where people feel seen and understood. You know, it's about building trust and fostering like deeper, more meaningful relationships.
Totally. And I really love how he emphasizes avoiding shame and judgment, you know, because we all have our own struggles, our own insecurities, and like offering support instead of criticism can make a world of difference.
It really can. Yeah, it's about approaching ourselves and others with compassion, you know, recognizing that we're all doing the best we can with the tools we have.
Totally. And, you know, he even created an app called Uchi to help people strengthen their connections and nurture emotional health.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how he's like taken these insights and actually translated them into a practical tool.
Yeah.
You know, and the app is designed to facilitate deeper conversations and more meaningful interactions, especially among like close friends and family.
Right.
You know, those people that really matter.
Yeah. And it's not just like some feel-good gimmick or whatever. Yeah. There's actually research that shows that using the app can lead to like improvements in mood and even like a reduction in symptoms of depression.
That's huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really, you know, brings us back to this point that neglecting emotional health isn't just about feeling like a little down.
Right.
Like it can have serious consequences for our well-being and even our physical health.
It really can.
Strauss doesn't sugarcoat it either.
No.
He's like drawing a direct line between unaddressed emotional pain and, you know, these destructive behaviors like substance abuse, addiction, even violence.
Yeah. It's like that saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
You know, that pain can like ripple outward and impact everyone around us.
That's a really good point. It's like we're all connected.
We are.
Yeah.
You know, it's a powerful reminder that our individual well-being is interconnected. You know, when we prioritize our own emotional health, we're not just doing it for ourselves.
Right.
We're contributing to a healthier, more compassionate society.
Exactly. And you know, he emphasizes having at least one person you can truly rely on, like someone you can call at 3 a.m. if you need to.
Right.
But he points out that over 25% of adults don't have that kind of support in their lives.
Wow. That's a staggering statistic.
It is.
It really underscores like the extent of loneliness and isolation in our modern world.
Totally. And it's not just a problem for individuals, right?
No.
It affects specific demographics disproportionately, like young adults, the elderly men over 40.
Right.
And it has like real societal implications.
Yeah, and this is where Strauss's message, I think, becomes so crucial. He's not just highlighting the problem, he's offering solutions.
Right.
He's urging us to prioritize connection, to cultivate those deep, meaningful relationships that provide a sense of belonging and support.
Totally. And it's not just about like fluffy feel-good stuff either.
No.
He dives into like the science behind it, you know, explaining how like giving and receiving compliments releases oxytocin. You know, that feel-good hormone that strengthens bonds.
Yeah.
So like there's a physiological basis for this.
There is. There really is. Yeah, connection isn't just some abstract concept.
Yeah.
It has a tangible impact on our well-being,
Oh,
right down to our brain chemistry.
exactly. And he doesn't shy away from like the tough stuff either.
Yeah.
He talks about the importance of ending toxic relationships, even though it can be like incredibly painful.
Right.
But sometimes letting go is like the most loving thing we can do for ourselves.
Absolutely. It's about setting healthy boundaries and prioritizing our own emotional well-being, even if it means like making difficult choices.
Yeah. And this whole conversation reminds me of that famous Harvard study on happiness.
Oh, yeah.
The one that followed people for 80 years, the Grant study.
Yes, one of the longest running studies on human development.
Yeah.
And the key takeaway, strong relationships, are the foundation of a happy life.
Exactly. And it's not just about happiness.
Okay.
Dan Buettner, who studies the blue zones,
Yeah.
there's those areas around the world where people live the longest.
Yeah.
He found that close-knit communities are a key factor in longevity.
It's amazing how these findings from different fields all point to the same conclusion. Relationships are the secret sauce to a longer, healthier, happier life.
I love that, the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even more recently, Dr. Peter Attia, who's a surgeon and like a data-driven health expert,
Okay.
he argued in his book Outlive that emotional health, particularly strong relationships, actually trumps exercise when it comes to longevity.
Wow. That's a paradigm shift
It is.
in how we think about wellness.
Yes.
It's not just about what we eat or how much we move,
Yeah.
but how we connect, how we love, and how we support each other.
Totally. It really challenges that whole like pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Strauss is challenging that individualistic mindset.
Yeah.
He's reminding us that we're wired for connection,
Yeah.
that our well-being is intrinsically intertwined with the well-being of others.
Yeah. And he uses a great example to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He talks about sharing something exciting with his mom, like buying a new shirt that he loved.
Uh-huh.
And she immediately shifted the conversation to talk about a shirt she had bought.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I've seen that happen.
it's such a classic example of how we often fail to truly acknowledge and validate each other's feelings.
Yeah.
And it might seem like a small thing,
Right.
but those seemingly insignificant moments can accumulate and create a sense of disconnection.
They do. He's not, trying to bash his mom or anything.
No.
He's using it to illustrate a larger point
Right.
about how we unintentionally hurt each other
Right.
through these like small acts of emotional neglect.
Exactly. It's about raising awareness of these patterns so we can start to shift them.
I love that. Yeah, shifting those patterns.
Yeah. It's about cultivating a culture of empathy and compassion, starting with ourselves and extending it outward to our relationships and communities.
And you know what's so powerful about all of this is it doesn't require grand gestures, or elaborate plans.
Right.
They're small, consistent actions that can just be woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
Yeah, but taking a moment to really listen to a friend who's going through a tough time, or offering like a genuine compliment to a colleague
Right.
who's done great work,
Yeah.
or simply being more present and attentive
Yes.
in our conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These might seem like minor things, but they really do have this ripple effect, creating a more connected and supportive environment for everyone involved.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Kevin Strauss's formula for wellness, I think the biggest takeaway here is that wellness isn't just about salads and gym memberships.
Right.
It's about nurturing all aspects of our being, especially those emotional needs that we often overlook.
It is. And if you could make one small change today to strengthen a relationship or boost your emotional health, what would it be? Would you reach out to that friend you haven't spoken to in a while?
Yeah.
Offer a heartfelt thank you to someone who's made a difference in your life, or just simply make a more conscious effort to be present and engaged in your interactions?
Yeah, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, check out Strauss's work. Maybe give the Uchi app a try if it resonates with you. But most importantly, start paying attention to your emotional needs, because when all four tires of well-being are properly inflated, you can truly go the distance in life.
What did you think of Google's Notebook LM summary of my more than 50-minute episode 18? I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was a quicker, easier way to digest this topic, but maybe you'll be inspired or encouraged to go back and listen to the previous episode. And also, I would love for you to join me and other listeners in a private free Uchi tribe. Just go to the show notes, click on the link, and join this tribe so that we can dig into this conversation deeper, because I want to hear your perspectives on these topics, not in a public forum, but in the private Uchi app. Okay, so until next time, peace, love, and connect. Thanks for joining me on Question It. Remember, growth happens outside your comfort zone, so keep experimenting and embracing change. If you enjoyed this episode, connect with me in the show notes, leave a 5-star review, and request to join this episode's Uchi tribe. Until next time, peace, love, and connect.